Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the classroom. I got a great little episode for you. I'm back in the classroom. Students are gone for the day, so I got a little free time to get some work done. But I wanted to check in with a project that we started about 2 weeks ago, I think 16 days to be exact. We started a new project here right behind me. You can see we got this Easy Clone system by Easy Clone, whatever. So we're testing it out. We set it up the best that we could to be fair. We did some things right, and we weren't able to do everything perfectly the way we probably should have done it, but we'll see if doing it just all right works out. Let's take a look. All right, so you can see we got a pretty decent little propagation station set up here. We got the LED grow lights for the times when we need a bit more light. We do have them on the middle rack as well for our clones and other cuttings when we need it. I got it turned off at the moment. And of course we got them blasting up top. We got a mixture of different houseplant varieties, peperomia, there's some ferns in there, and palms, snake plant, rubber plant, some ficus obviously, and a lot of pothos, and then in this right here we've got a mixture of plants. We've got a lot of ficus benjamina, weeping fig cuttings that we had taken from the classroom. We've got some Swiss cheese plant in there, some pothos. I think I've even got some Hoya and some, was it Scandipius? We got a bit of it all. I have added a few today that weren't there, but what I really want to do is check in on the ones that we started, like I said, 16 days ago. So now that we got a chance to check in on some of these, like I said, these were a lot of these ones up front we'll check in on first. Typically I like to take cuttings just a little bit thicker than these. You can see this one right here I'll pull out. It's a really small cutting, and by small I mean it's actually a good size height, but the stem is so thin. Sometimes we have issues with those actually getting roots, but look, 16 days later, boom, it's actually rooting out pretty well. To be perfectly fair, I did have to pull out 3 that didn't make it, but I think those ones didn't make it because they were cuttings that the students had taken. I'm gonna blame them, but I could tell because they were super tiny little cuttings with the thinnest of, even way thinner than this one even. So what it was just a cutting that was really gonna be difficult for it to have, to make it, because it was such a weak specimen that they had cut. It'd be like cutting the tiniest, thinnest little top of a branch. And so we did lose 3 of them out of the batch, but I pulled those out and cleaned them out because we don't want them in here with their leaves drying up. But like I said, all 3 of them were tiny and a pretty in comparison to these, very weak choices, I would say. Whereas you look at this guy right here, and boom, roots are already starting to form. Like I said, they've only been in for, this is day 16. I think we did them in May 10th. So yeah, and so about just over 2 weeks. Here is one that we did, and it looks like it is actually one of our Hoyas. Just a nice little Hoya cutting that we had taken, and look, boom, it's already getting some sweet roots on there. And so like I'd mentioned earlier that we really didn't do everything perfect, and by that I mean we did bring our pH down a bit, but it didn't stay down as low as we wanted it to be at the recommended level. But we did get it lower from where it was. I'll probably have to do, maybe I'll remeasure today to see where it's at. But I remember right before I left a few weeks ago, a couple days into it, the pH had kind of gone back up a little bit. We didn't, it's higher than we wanted it. But so the pH was probably a bit higher than recommended, and it's recommended by the company, or the Easy Clone, that you actually use, reverse osmosis water. So here's a Swiss cheese plant. We'd put it in there the same time, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago. Some of them actually might have gone in a little bit sooner, or more recent. But you can see this one's Swiss cheese plant, 16 days, rooted. I'll probably let them get more, I'll probably let the roots flush out a bit more before I ever put them back into soil. Let's take a look at a few more of these. This ficus here, oh yeah. So you can see lots of roots. Oh yeah, there's a good example right there. So 16 days, like I said, and we don't, I do have an RO filter that somebody, a good friend of mine donated to me years ago, and we started using it in our aquaponics systems. But then we stopped using it just because it had so much wastewater, and it was kind of getting away from what we wanted to do. And since our systems are so small, that we kind of try to do it without that, try to save that expense. But for this system, if you actually really were going to do it full on, you'd probably want to use some RO water, because that's what's recommended, and that's what works really well. We just used some tap water, and we did lower the pH a little bit. Like I said, it didn't stay as low for as long as we'd like. and they'd probably be rooting out even better if I did everything perfect. But you know what? With even some of our imperfections, you can see it's actually working really well. Working really, really well. And I've actually been out of school. Like as you guys may have known, wife just gave birth, so I've been gone for actually 2 weeks. I literally put these in, basically installed it, made a video of us setting it up, which I'll link to this video if you'd like to see it. Check it out. It's just a really easy setup, kind of fun to take a peek at. Let me see if I have another Hoya in here. Oh yeah, the Hoyas are doing good. Let me grab a Scandipius or whatever that Scandipius. I always say that name wrong, or incorrectly. You got to be kind of delicate in here. They're all kind of tied in together. But look, boom, even this one right here. Nice little, real pretty. I love these leaves. These are really popular online. People are loving these right now. But yeah, shooting out a root. So that basically, like I said, out of all the ones we did, and we didn't fill, it's a 64, spotter. You can put 64 different plants in here. And we didn't fill all the way up. Maybe half of that, close to, maybe almost all of it, but not quite. We only lost 3. And like I said, in those ones, like I said, we're probably would be more user error than this one, than this machine not doing it, because they were it'd be like cutting this top little part here and hoping that's gonna, root out for you and survive. And they just didn't make it. It was just too weak. But all the pothos back there are doing killer. The Swiss cheese plant doing killer. The Hoyas are actually rooting out really quickly, which I'm excited about. And I really hope that we can get more of them, because they're expensive plants. Like, oh, here we go. And I just put these, like I said, these haven't been in that long, barely 2 weeks. And you can kind of see, oh, let me see. Yeah, boom, you can see the roots already forming. So it's a great way to propagate your plants and make more. So far, I'm seeing really good root development on these. Maybe I'll continue to monitor these and over the next week or two, and then we'll come back and take a look to see how it's working. It's basically just has some misters in here, misting water inside this reservoir. You can add I think we dipped some of them in rooting hormone, and that's worked out really well. But I'm actually, so far, I'm pretty satisfied with the results. The quality has been pretty good. And so I'm really hoping to see this thing crank out more, because once these flush out, I'll probably give them another week or so that way each cutting actually has like a solid flush of roots, kind of similar to how this one looks. Like this one right here is pretty close. Like, look at those roots on that. So that could probably get put into soil and then babied over here in the propagation area, and then it can be moved on to a bigger container, be sold, given to students, whatever. And so and then we just make more and more and more, grow them big, and go from there. I am stoked on this. I'm really thankful that we have it, and I think I'm going to be excited to test out other types of house plants, maybe even some outdoor plants, because we can do that with these lights. We can kind of mimic the outdoors a little bit, and then baby some of our sun-loving plants into rooting as well with this system. Also, doesn't have to be just for house plants. That's just what we grow a lot here in the classroom, and that's what we were testing it out with. But like I said, I have there's a lot of diversity of house plants in here to choose from, and then we'll also have to play with cloning and doing cuttings and propagation and rooting out some of our outdoor plants, our sun-loving plants. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Did you like this video? Did you learn anything? I hope. Cloning is just a great way to propagate plants. You get the exact identical replica typically, almost always, unless there's some freaky mutation as you're cloning clones and cloning those clones. Sometimes you have issues, but we won't get into that later. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please like and subscribe. Come back for more. We'd love to have you back. All right. We'll like I said, we'll check back in on this progress of these. We'll show you how to pot them up, and we'll do the whole system. We'll do the whole process over again. But I think it's doing really well, and we'll see how it goes, and then we'll give the final review in our next video. All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.